Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and joining me in studio right now is Angela Davis. I'm going to say, Angela, you wear many hats, and thank you so much for making time in your schedule to be with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor.
Absolutely. Tell the folks, you have several different titles. I want to make sure you get them right. Just tell the folks a couple of the things that you're really doing out here in community.
Okay, well, for one thing, I am the community liaison for the Institute of African Centered Thought. And that is working on, quite a few things within that institute. The other thing that I do is I am a restorative circle collaborator and organizer. And I have an organization called Community Connection Seattle Unlimited, which is now being launched.
Oh, wow. I mean, you know what? I've seen you in so many different community spaces. It does not surprise me that you wear multiple hats. And I'm really thankful that, you've really done such a great job of keeping me informed about the ways that these circles are really helping our community and how you're shaping some of the narrative around what healing really looks like. Let's get into what these Homicide Healing Circles are all about.
Well, first of all, before I even get into that, I'd like to say that there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of amazing and phenomenal circles of various types. The Homicide Healing Circles are a place where we can actually collectively begin to process multiple issues that have to be surrounded around homicide. And that has not really been a specific pointed place and strategy. Yeah. And how do we unpack, national continual visualization of the officer Chauvin having his knee on the neck of George Floyd? How do we process that? Where do we process that? How do we look at the things that have been going on so many levels? It's not just the homicides that seem to spike during the summer. It's also about the other types of homicide that are related to domestic violence, the stuff that is going on because we haven't been taught emotional regulation and all of those things. And then we have the pandemic. How are we coping with those things? Yeah. And so the flushing out of the Homicide Healing Circles is a connection of me taking some of the classes with the Institute of African Centered Thought, and that was the Ancestral Healing, Trauma Healing Circles, and looking at how deep the colonization has caused us to internalize how we actually view each other as other instead of collectives. Yeah. And how do we actually heal from that? Yeah. And there's multiple levels and multiple layers about that. And how does colonization continue to pre-frame and preset a conditioning of which we function? Yeah. And so that continual process is what the ancestral healing looks at. How do we continue to integrate the individualistic mindset that we are a part of right now, when we as a community and as a diaspora, we are continually looking at, we are a collective. So how do we institute that collective? Yeah. And a healing circle has been a part of our community for centuries, all indigenous cultures. And so that is how the Homicide Healing Circles came about. Colonization has gone on to every four corners of the globe and has gone in to strip indigenous cultures of what it is. And then they set in this white Eurocentric America a framework that is an individualistic mindset of compartmentalizing our issues, our problems, when in humanity we are mind, we are body, we are soul, and we are spirit. Yeah. And so how do we integrate and collectively begin to unravel all of these things so that we can heal? We're all in varying stages of what it is that we do and say. So how do we get there? Yes. So a Homicide Healing Circle is just a spark. And it's not just me. It's a collective.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is beautiful because the way you just described that, it really paints the picture of not just the importance of it, but the history of it. That this is really a continuation. In Black community, often we talk about it takes a village, right? And what does it look like for us to be recreating what that village was? And I think that these healing circles are a part of recreating that village mentality. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. As you know, as the facilitator, Dr. Mims' critical conversations and what that has done from the beginning up until now.
Yeah.
Just the continuity of recognizing that there is a collective place on a regular, continuous space for us to come together.
Yeah.
Just knowing that exists is powerful. And so, when we have something like a homicide, and it's traumatizing to me if I drive in Renton or Skyway, and then all of a sudden I see a bunch of candles and an empty bottle of Hennessy in the parking lot. That's another life. That's somebody's mother, somebody's child, somebody's relative. That's a life that has been gone. And then the people that have been traumatized or impacted by that, then they have some issues that have to be recovered as well.
Yeah.
And if we don't take the time to speak those things out so that they don't lodge in the seat of our souls, then that's where it becomes a perpetuation.
Wow. This is why, we talk about the effects of gun violence on our community here on the Morning Update show all the time, because we realize as soon as we hear that there was another shooting, I think so many in Black community and Black families, we seize up a little because we're like, oh no, we're just waiting to hear if this is somebody I know, somebody I grew up with, somebody my mom knows, my dad knows, my brothers know. Like, you just immediately it takes your breath away a little bit. And there needs to be a way to really work through a lot of that, because I think we've become so used to so much of this.
Yes.
How much of the healing circles really address that kind of part of it, where it's like we have really kind of shaped ourselves around the trauma of homicide?
Right, we have normalized it when it's not normal. It's not normal to be waiting for the next shoe to drop to find out, oh, here's another summer, here's another time that somebody else's life is going to be done. It's really a painful thing. And so the healing circles are designed to be able to provide people a space to actually begin to verbalize what they're internally holding on to, and also to begin to have people know that they are not alone. That is the most detrimental thing about individualistic mindset. You are separated from your community, where you get that collective healing energy and transform a tragedy into something.
Yeah.
When do you take a pain of something and make it into a purpose? And so that is the thing. And so the other thing is about the Institute of African Centered Thought is all working on developing a African-centered, Black-centered mental wellness program. The current mental wellness program, I do not tell anybody, do not go. I'm saying that the Institute of African Centered Thought is truly developing what the pieces of the white Eurocentric model does not acknowledge.
Wow. And I think that that's part of, that brings us into the facilitator training,
yes,
which I was able to take part of. But, that's another piece of this. And before we move on to it, I want to be able to use the graphic so you can tell people about the next upcoming Homicide Healing Circle, and then we'll get right into the training.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and run that graphic. So how can people participate?
Okay, so the Homicide Healing Circles are the second Friday of every month. And this Friday, we are having it, and they will be virtual for a while. And on the flyer, it had the location and the information. If you're interested, it is co-sponsored this Friday, 6:30 to 8, via Zoom, and it's being sponsored by Build, and it will be co-facilitated with Rico Bembry of Bembry Consulting Services. And if you were not able to access the flyer, you can also contact Rico Bembry, whose number is on the flyer, and that is 206-850-3688. 26.
Wow. And they can find information at, what is the IACT website?
And the IAC website is IACTNOW0119 at gmail.com.
All right. So that's the email where people can go. And I think that, as you were just talking, there is a greater work being done through IAC. And so before I let you go, I know that there's a brunch happening, a ceremony for the certificates of one of the cohorts of this facilitator training. But it's important that we have more people from the community that can get the training necessary to facilitate these types of healing circles. And that's what this is about, right?
Yeah, this is about building capacity so that we can normalize healing circles, so that we are doing community-led solutions, so that we are taking, the ability to alter our norm of how we deal with things.
Yeah.
And so this Saturday from 1:30 to 4, there will be a certificate ceremony for those that have been taking the Ancestral Healing Circle training and those that have been taking the Ancestral Healing Facilitation courses. And it's just really necessary that we all support what everyone else is doing. And this ceremony is just not only to talk about the circles, but to also have people be made more aware of what else is going to be happening with the Institute of African Centered Thought on many levels in the future.
Well, you guys are doing great work at IACT, and I'm so glad. Me and you have talked about you coming on for so long, and so I'm just so thankful that you had the foresight to do these homicide healing circles, and that IACT really had the foresight to say we need to bring African Centered Thought to the forefront for our people, because there's so many different healing mechanisms in that. So, Angela, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys heard it right here from Angela herself. Clearly, IACT is finding ways for them to be part of the solutions necessary to heal our community.